Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Get ready for the last talk and the first panel on the Machankura stage of Adopting Bitcoin 2024. Now, you might have heard of this protocol called Lightning. It's like a layer 2 on Bitcoin. It enables you to do super fast transactions at a very, very low fee. The four gentlemen I'm about to welcome onto the stage are pioneers in the world of Lightning. We have Kamal from Galloy Money, who you probably heard his talk earlier. We have KG, who's the guy spinning out all sorts of Africa-centric solutions, including Machankura. Next, we have Carol from CryptoConvert / I'm going to call him the Pick and Pay ambassador from now on, the Lightning guy at Pick and Pay. Is that a role? Can it be a role? The Lightning guy at Pick and Pay? Nice, cool. And finally, we're welcoming a new face onto the stage, Rai Sterling from IBEX. Now, IBEX do all sorts of wonderful Lightning and merchant-based solutions, and they're helping to connect people, particularly in the developing world, and are also approaching Lightning from a B2B standpoint. Was that pretty good, Rai? Super. I've spent enough time with him over the past couple of months now in Ghana and, of course, now in South Africa to get a better sense of what IBEX are doing around the world. They're going to be sitting on these wonderful crates, KG style. So please do give them a warm round of welcome, of applause. Come to the stage, guys. Talk to us about Lightning and how it could be this global payment rail.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you.
Take it away, take it away, take it away, take it away.
Same seats?
Yeah.
Oh, these lights.
Cool.
Cool.
Come on, you want to kick it off?
I'm going to kick it off?
Yeah.
No, you must be kidding. All right, well, let's talk about Lightning. What is Lightning? It's a second layer. I think it deserves that name. Why does it deserve that name? Like, some people are very explicit about it. What is a second layer? Well, you need to be able to unilaterally exit to the main chain from it, right? So that's what you can do with Lightning channels. You make an on-chain transaction, you open one, and to appear, and you can make infinite number of probably like millions of transactions per second between two beefy machines, which is like way more than Visa can do or MasterCard can do. So it's a scaling solution for Bitcoin. It removes some of the congestion that clogs up the mempool and drives the base chain fees up. That's not great for adoption for transacting Bitcoin. But it's not a panacea because you need an on-chain transaction to create a channel, and once in a while, sometimes you also close a channel. So that's another on-chain transaction. But between these two, you can make an infinite number of transactions, and that's great for Bitcoin as a medium of exchange, and to make especially retail payments, right? Use Bitcoin as money for e-commerce, for brick-and-mortar stores. You get the instant confirmation, not like, okay, I make my on-chain transaction, and now we wait for 3 on-chain confirmations to be really secure, and we drink some tea. That's just not how commerce works. So you need that instant transaction confirmation, right? That's like, it doesn't do it without it, and Lightning offers that. So a lot of people had hopes about Lightning as like the ultimate scaling solution for Bitcoin. What do you guys think? Is it that?
It definitely helps.
It definitely helps.
Yeah, you offset or aggregate a high number of transactions onto a single, or let's say two on-chain transactions. So it helps a lot. But with the high fee environment that we've been facing, even that becomes difficult because you still have to manage your channels. You still want to open channels, and if something goes wrong, like you said, close it. And that's becoming more and more difficult to do it in a safe way because of on-chain fees. So people are looking beyond Lightning now, thinking about the problems that we still need to face. There's no solutions. There's no problems that are like solved. We still have problems to face.
Right. So what you're referring to, obviously, when you onboard someone new to Lightning, in a self-custodial way, meaning he needs to have a channel. So in order to play the game of Lightning and super fast, cheap, instant, borderless transactions, you have some upfront cost. And that might be a showstopper for newbies, right? And there's been a bit of disillusionment with Lightning, I think, even though in the Lightning white paper it was pretty clear that there are some limitations. Just people kind of glossed over them because they were so happy to get SegWit and to have that potential for Bitcoin to be more than just a digital pet rock that you can collect. And so Lightning was a little bit overhyped. Would you agree, KG, or what do you think?
Well, I wouldn't fully agree, right? So maybe yes, there has been some instances where people say, oh, if you want to onboard everyone onto Bitcoin, you use Lightning. But even there, like all the literature that's been published on the drawbacks about Lightning has been there for years. If you go to Exonomia, we have one of the articles we translate into other African languages is talking about how would we actually onboard everyone onto Lightning. And the first statement is, if everyone had a Lightning channel or needed a Lightning channel / a UTXO, it would take us more years than we would all live in a lifetime, right? And so what would you do? Batch the opens, but then that would take us maybe like 8 years. Then what would you do? Implement channel factories. So it goes down this list of things you can do to open as many channels for as many people as possible, while also highlighting that all of these things are not there today. Right. And those are things that we hope to be able to do in the future. And for now, the things that you could do are basically use somebody else's Lightning node, and that's how most people have been using Lightning. And yeah, on top of that, managing a Lightning node is not pop and place, right? So I think everyone here is running at least one Lightning node. And yeah, well, what is the worst nightmare situation you guys have had with a Lightning node that a normal user wouldn't have been able to maybe recover from?
Well, I have a tech team, so I don't really have to
Oh,
deal with that.
well,
So I'm
like you.
blessed, but I would say overall, the net benefit to Bitcoin with Lightning has, Paco would probably love it if we're hearing me say this, but has been the custodial solutions surrounding Lightning.
Yes.
And the custodial wallets that have allowed people to have that instant experience of Bitcoin. So for my initial phases at IBEX was onboarding a ton of people, trying to pull off what Carl pulled off in here in South Africa, but in the States, and building those communities. And the traditional use of Bitcoin was just like, you're not going to spend $3 in fees for a $5 cup of coffee. It's just never going to happen, as you mentioned. And to give somebody something that they're instantly onboarded to, they don't have to learn about nodes or channels or any of this stuff. It's like, here's some Bitcoin, go pay with a cup of coffee. That did leaps and bounds for Bitcoin, I think. And I think that's what you're pointing to. And then what Fedi is saying is like, we get as Bitcoiners very in the weeds about custodial, non-custodial, but for the masses, they just want something that works. And yes, we're going to have liquid and a bunch of other things that are in early development that may be the best for us. We're very early in this, but I guess in terms of overall impact, I think it's been a huge plus. And without the custodial solutions, you wouldn't be able to get where we are now.
Yeah.
Let's take it a little bit back. You were mentioning, KG, like it wouldn't suffice our lifetimes with the current tech that we have to open enough Lightning channels for everyone to be self-custodial. What you're referring to is a paper by Paul Stortz. I think it's called Lightning Limitations, where he makes a, more or less very accurate calculation of, we have 8 billion people, we have 4 megabyte or 1 megabyte blocks with 4 megabytes of block weight, and you can fit like, I don't know, 3 to 7 transactions into it. So if we need for every person on the planet, like mass adoption all at once, right? They need to use Lightning in a self-custodial manner. we would need so many blocks, we would only be finished in 120 years, right? And that's obviously, I mean, it's a thought experiment. I mean, adoption is probably not going to happen that fast, but maybe it would. Like Jimmy's song is, I think, like thinks that it's going to be a huge rush, so we might have to be prepared if things fail, but Lightning just doesn't bring us there, right? Just to clear that up, what you were referring to for those that might not be familiar with the math that you were referring to. However, like Ryan knows, not everything is lost. Like we did make a big step with Lightning. It's not maybe the final solution, but we gained a lot. And maybe you can talk a little bit about like what you guys are doing with IBEX. Like how are you utilizing Lightning? Where are the advantages of it for businesses in the global south where the financial infrastructure is maybe not that great and there's a pressing need to use it. And maybe also like in places like the United States or the European Union where there's an excellent financial infrastructure and people have access to digital payments. What do you see Lightning's value proposition there? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd love to take credit, but the IBEX team before me was in charge of building all the great products before I came on as BD here at IBEX. And the launch of IBEX was really in El Salvador right after they made Bitcoin legal tender in El Salvador. And you know, overnight the government decided that everyone in El Salvador had to be able to accept Bitcoin payments, which works for your mom and pop pupusa vendor if you just give them a wallet of Satoshi or the local, you know, Chivo wallet. But what happens if you're McDonald's or Starbucks or a corporation? Well, you can't just give some custodial wallet to someone and then have them be able to send around their funds and download it and send it to their friends. There's no control over that. So IBEX very quickly, our CTO built a very basic point of sale device that had a back end with reporting, and you could basically have location 1, 2, 3, 4, and all it was a simple screen where you put in a charge, hit accept, and it creates a Lightning invoice. And that all went to a reporting backend, and that was built on a toolbox of APIs, which is predominantly what IBEX does, a toolbox of Lightning infrastructure APIs. And so we built that very quickly with our toolbox to demonstrate like the first use case, I would say, for merchant acceptance at, I guess, a larger scale. So McDonald's and Starbucks and all these guys started using our solution. And so about 3 months later, I came on board and I was tasked with the beautiful task of onboarding the US. And we had the Miami conference coming up, and it was my job to go on board the merchants around Miami, and it was a difficult task to say the least. You had 3 types of people, I would say. You had the people that were already Bitcoiners that wanted to do it, and they were down to put the Bitcoin sticker in their door, and they had the Bitcoin standard behind their taco shop, you know, and they're all into it, and that was great. And then you had the people that were open to learn. They saw it as a way to maybe make an alternative or, you know, gain an alternative customer base. And, you know, the conference was coming, so they're open to it. And then you had usually the larger institutions, the club owners and whatnot, that just were like, yeah, we'll do it to make more money, but they didn't want to put any education into it. They didn't want to learn about it at all. And it was funny, the ones that did absolutely nothing saw no traction because they didn't train their staff, and it's complicated. I mean, charging an invoice isn't complicated, but when you're running a restaurant, if it's not built into your point of sale system or not built into Pick and Pay, well, you got to pull out this separate device. And unless you have someone like, you know, Edwin here from Bitcoin Vista going around orange pilling people all day long and, you know, following up with them, it's not going to happen. So that was my experience. We onboarded about 80 locations in Miami. I would say about 4 months after the conference, those 80 locations were probably down to 20. And then from there, it just trickled off, and now you probably have like a solid 10 in Miami that are really still on it. And then from there, I went to trying to figure out how do we orange pill the corporations, because I saw the problem of, yeah, one restaurant at a time is great, but it's going to take you forever. So how do you get into the Clovers, the Toasts, the actual POS systems where you go into a supermarket, Publix, and it's pay with credit card, pay with cash, which nobody really does because we have, you know, a really strong financial system in the US, and then a big B where you say pay with Bitcoin. And I did that for about a year, and 90% of the responses, even when I got all the way to the C-suite, was like, we're not interested in crypto. So I kind of went to the CEO of IBEX. I was like, you might as well fire me, because this is going to be a difficult journey here in the U.S. And you know, we pivoted focus, but that was kind of the learning experience from the U.S. And when you have a financial system that just works, and there's no, you know, you're not suffering from hyperinflation, you don't see the need, the customers aren't asking for it, then the corporations aren't going to do it. And then I kind of pivoted over to Africa last year. And saw there was a use case from the builders level, like Femi talked about. Like, you know, you got a lot of young, youthful builders that are trying to build really cool solutions. You also have corporations that are open to learn about it, which was different. You know, I went to a tech festival in Kenya in February, and people knew about Lightning, they knew about Bitcoin, and there was like both a need and a knowledge. And I was like, wow, this is very different than my experience so far. So it kind of like light bulb in my head. And then now you have really cool, interesting companies thinking of things from peer-to-peer payments with, you know, kickbacks and sats to B2B companies looking to do outbound and inbound B2B remittances from, say, South Africa to Europe. So their people are, at least over here in the Global South and over in, you know, LATAM in the Global South, have, I would say, a far better understanding and knowledge for the solution. That's kind of been the
Yeah, so what I'm
experience.
hearing from both you and I mean from the projects that you're working on, both KG and with Machankura and IBEX and also CryptoConvert, is that these are all custodial Lightning solutions that are managed by experts. And what you said is like reminds me of 2018 from my personal experience in Munich when Lightning was very new. And I was playing around with it. I was building a node with Raspberry Bolt on a Raspberry Blitz, like following a guide. And I just wanted to see, is this Lightning thing real, right? And I made it work. And then there was a Lightning node in BTC Pay server, so I spun up one. And then I thought, man, this is working great. Like we could actually use it in a shop, and people, Lightning payments in Bitcoin would not just be abstract anymore. It would be in the real world where they can buy real goods and services at one of the dailies. So I hit up a friend of mine in Munich. Shout out to Mark. Bikini Mitte is the daily place. And he said, okay, Kemal, I'm going to do you a favor. I'm going to play along. I'll accept Lightning payments, Bitcoin payments for all the goods here in my place. It was a really nice, hip place. But he said, I don't want any extra work. Right? I don't want any extra work. So he did it as a favor. He didn't hodl the Bitcoin. I bought it off from him at the end of the month, which was a nice way for me to stack sats. I can recommend that model, by the way, to anybody if you want KYC-free sats. But the key part is that you need someone who manages the Lightning node. You need to put some effort into it. And the merchants, in order for them to adopt it, you have to make it zero friction, and the staff needs to be briefed. Ideally, it's incorporated into the point of sales that they're using as just another checkout method, right? Making it really easy. KG's Machankura is also just making it very easy for the people to use Lightning. It's also a custodial service. And it just works, right? And same is true for CryptoConvert, which is basically taking away all the friction for Pick and Pay, because I imagine like they came to you with a similar proposition that they don't want any headache from this, right?
Yeah, and there's many aspects to that. So there's a technical angle. It's actually quite, like we've discussed now, quite a technical challenge to run a Lightning node and run it consistently, not lose funds. But there's also things like the typical people you deal with in a corporate. They tend to be heads of finance and accountants, things like that. And when you come to them and you say, well, you'll be receiving this asset essentially, and you're going to have to keep track of the price as you receive it, and as you dispose of it, you'll have to keep track of the difference, and then it's like a massive burden on the accounting teams, and then they say no. Same thing. They basically want no overhead, no hassle. They want a drop-in replacement that just works. They want it basically for free. And then when you tell people, well, you know what, it's actually going to cost you a little bit of money because it's actually quite a lot of effort to run this, most people say, no, why would we even do this? So you need somebody that's actually buys into the idea.
Yeah, I forgot about that, the accounting overhead that you already have. But it's getting removed bit by bit. We just heard from Prospera, which is an economic zone in Honduras, who adopted Bitcoin as the first jurisdiction as unit of account. So that's a world first. I think Jan 3 is incorporated there, and just using Bitcoin as their unit of account. So, and there's also, like with the FSAB rules, I'm not too familiar with that stuff, but there's some things moving in our favor, I guess. Also, it's the official currency of a sovereign republic, so it's not just some magic internet money anymore. It's like sovereign money as well, of a republic, right? Maybe that helps. But let's bring it a little bit back to Lightning. And so there's been some disillusionment among people. There are custodial solutions that work very frictionless, better than most fintechs, I would say, with very low barrier to entry. We talked about many of them. Now there's also self-custodial wallets like Phoenix on mobile phones that can be used. Like if you want to be sovereign, that works quite well if you know what you're doing, right? With some caveats. You need to be a little bit advanced. There's others as well, like Breeze or Mutiny. A little bit advanced. I wouldn't give it to my mother or onboard a newbie to it. But there's also this idea emerging that Lightning payment rails are the glue between different mints and Bitcoin banks and corporations, where basically the heavy technical lifting is being done. And there are also ideas like ARC, which we may or may not get because we need a soft fork for it, but that would also be interoperable with Lightning. So how do you think about the future of Lightning in this whole context of custodial versus self-custodial, businesses versus casual users versus advanced users? Who wants to go? KG?
I want to hear what Karel has to say actually about that.
Yeah.
Well, it's more of a, it depends on your personal philosophical view on it. Because if you think in terms of, let's say, the early internet, right? You had local ISPs that you would connect to with a dial-up modem to literally make a local call to your ISP. That'd be connected with a higher bandwidth connection to a regional ISP, then to a national ISP, and then the national ISPs connected to each other. So if you see Lightning sort of purely as value routing technology, that model works. There's no problem with that. You sign up with your Lightning service provider, your local Lightning service provider of choice, and they are connected on this network, and then it's fine. Because like one Lightning service provider can service thousands of customers, right? Scale's fine. The reason we're saying that it's not working is because that is a driver for centralization. And the actual discussion is about self-custody, self-sovereignty versus censorship, centralized solutions that's subject to censorship. And that's why people say Lightning doesn't work. I think it does work. It's fine. It actually works really well. It's got some advantages just beyond fast and cheap settlements. But as Bitcoiners, we approach it from this self-sovereign libertarian angle, and then we say, well, it doesn't work because it's causing centralization. And we're assuming a very super adversarial environment all the time, right? Yes. Somebody told me outside here, they're like, wow, the libertarian angle is really coming through in this conference. I'm like, what did you expect? It's a Bitcoin conference. But so I think that's why people say it's not working. The tech works fine, but in its current form, and not only Lightning, also high fees on the base chain, these are forces for centralization, and then the fear is that a centralized service provider becomes subject to censorship.
Yeah, and I think To add to that, right, Lightning has allowed us to do very interesting things. Right? Back in 2017, I was like, I need to get as many people using Bitcoin as I can. Fees were high. Oh, let me send this person Litecoin because it's the silver to Bitcoin's gold. Right? And with Lightning, you almost never have to do that. You could just say, okay, cool, let me send this person Bitcoin over Lightning. And even with this conference, everything we did, we tried as much as possible to receive payments over Lightning. And if you're a merchant in this room, and you've accepted Bitcoin payments and then switched over to Lightning payments, two of the things you would notice, or a few of the things you would notice is one, a customer would never overpay you or underpay you with Lightning because Lightning is pegged to say what amount should be paid. A bulk 11 invoice starts with the amount and the wallet will clearly pay that amount and nothing more, nothing less.
Within the time frame that you specify.
Yeah,
as well.
within the as well within the time frame that you specify. So none of the whole waiting 10 minutes and drinking tea with the person you're paying, as Kamal would say. And then on the other side, it's like the perfect merchant solution, right?
Yep.
But and I think why the title of the panel was payment rails is that if you are routing value for whatever reason, you would use Lightning, right? And I find it interesting that any scaling technology today has to have Lightning, right? Whether that is Arc, whether that is Liquid, whatever you may think of, and a person says, this is scaling Bitcoin, if you look somewhere in the ecosystem, you can find a place where you send a Lightning transaction and out comes the alternative scaling solution, right? So if it's a scaling solution that does not have a Lightning integration, it's not a scaling solution at all, right? Because of the other things that Lightning solves, whether or not you can open a channel, can you specify an invoice, and can you settle the transaction instantly, right? And we haven't even started about the wonderful stuff you've been doing with HODL invoices, where, oh yeah, but I think you should explain that a little more about what they are and why you actually use those.
Yeah, so Godsatse said it, Lightning is the perfect payment solution. And let's say we knew for a fact that on-chain fees would be 0 for the next 10 years. I still wouldn't develop a payment solution on top of that. Because the fundamental principle is that when you're paying somebody, you pay the merchant, right? And the merchant really wants to be in control of the transaction, of that payment. Now, on base layer, what does that control look like? The merchant provides a receive address and a Bitcoin amount, right? The sender controls every aspect of that transaction. So they control the amount that they send. It could be incorrect. They can send the transaction tomorrow, next week, whenever. And that's a problem for the merchant because they are the ones that sort of under that time pressure to get the funds at the time of the sale. And then the HODL aspect that Godsatse talks about, that's extremely powerful. So if you think in terms of a credit card transaction, typically what happens is when you make a payment, the first step is that the funds are sort of reserved or authorized on the card. And then sometimes, let's say this scales to like thousands of payments. Sometimes something goes wrong on the merchant side. Like let's say load shedding hits and the sale can't be completed, but the funds have been sent already, right? Now it's a big hassle to return those funds. But what Lightning allows it to do, a mechanism of Lightning, is it allows the merchant to sort of reserve, to take custody of those funds, not custody, but they take control of the funds that they've received. They have the option of either taking those funds or returning it to the sender. And that all happens within a single transaction. It's not a separate inverse payment. It's all one single operation. And that's what makes it perfect for payments. It's one of the aspects. Because, for example, Anita showed electricity thing. She also spoke about this very quickly. But basically, what would happen sometimes is that your meter number, your electricity meter number is not supported. Now you've already sent the Lightning payment, but the upstream provider generating the voucher is unable to issue the voucher for your meter number. And then what needs to happen? Well, with Lightning, it's very, very easy. That payment is cancelled and your wallet just shows that it's failed and you don't lose the money.
Yeah, I would say that yes or no state, especially if you see Lightning in action, and it's, we've done a few conferences where we put all the merchants and you'll see Bitcoiners go around and have their first, or non-Bitcoiners go around and have their first experience with Lightning, and that instant yes or no state, it's the best payment experience in the world if you've got a good internet connection. You can't beat it with traditional finance.
If you have internet.
You see people's eyes light up, like, wow, that just happened. Yeah, that's a real transfer of value. Yeah, and so that is the exciting part. And then, what KG's doing, and kind of my excitement, and why I think Lightning is still going to be, it's going to continue being dominant for a while. Yes, we're going to have Liquid and federations, all these other things, which you mentioned are all going to have Lightning as their settlement rails at some point. But, building on top of Lightning and allowing people to send money over USSD, who would have thought that was going to be possible, right? I mean, how amazing is that? And then you have kids taking that even further and thinking, I was talking to some kid in Kenya the other day, and he's talking about starting a DCA app out of a Lightning pool where you could save as little as 100 sats a day. Like savings ideas that, so it's the people like AG that are coming up, like, yeah, we can provide the infrastructure, we can talk about Lightning all day, but with the people on the ground that are going to be able to bend and twist this technology into something great, that's what excites me.
Yeah, and I think even on that point, like, what things can you do to make the technology more user-friendly? I think Lightning being so good for payments has allowed things for LNURL to actually take off. So if you don't know what LNURL is, it's basically the foundation API or specification for something called a Lightning address. So a Lightning address looks like an email, but for your Lightning, right? And the Lightning address is actually the reason why Machankura exists, right? So if you have a feature phone with no copy and paste functionality, you have to enter where you're sending this money to. Right? If you've seen a Bitcoin address, it's like 60 characters random.
You don't want to type that in.
Yeah, you don't want to type that in. Right?
And Lightning invoice is even worse.
Yeah, a Lightning invoice longer and even more random. Right? So a Lightning address looks like an email. So my Lightning address is rotato@833.mobi. Right? And then you could tap that out into a Bitcoin Lightning wallet, and then the transaction would go through. I can't tell you where to send me Bitcoin if you are sending it on chain. Right? So that is how good LNURL is. And if people are going to actually then develop such solutions like DCA in Kenya, which we kind of do with Machankura now with clans, the barrier is usually how people are using the tech. Like, where are they sending the money? So are you going to create a Lightning address for that group? And do they know that they're sending to the group? Can they confirm? So on and so forth. And I like how you mentioned that it's such a joyful experience sending your first Lightning transaction, because my first on-chain transaction was a nightmare. I was like, double checking everything. Did I get the address right? So on and so forth. Because yeah, you sweat, and because everyone says if you get it wrong, the Bitcoin is gone forever, right? But Lightning, it's also similar. If you send the Bitcoin over Lightning, it's gone forever. But it has more checks and balances to say, okay, you're actually sending it to the right location and all of that. So yeah, for me, I'm like, okay, that is one of the most interesting aspects of Lightning, and how much it has helped the UX also develop. Like, okay, the sovereignty is one thing, but what is it about the UX that we could help?
And on the point of the UX, another crucial aspect of Lightning is it allows the receiver to specify a message for the sender for that specific payment. So you don't only know who you are paying, you know why you're paying them.
Yes.
And that's crucial. Now you've got a record of that as well.
But LNURL is a great point of like making Lightning usable and convenient. It's brought it ahead a ton. Things like Machankura wouldn't work without it, without LN URL. There wouldn't be no Lightning address. Things like Azteco that
Patches.
works with LN URL withdraw wouldn't work, but it's all custodial Lightning, right? I mean, is there
Zeus-
already like a workable self-custodial Lightning address really out there?
Zeus has it,
Okay.
yeah, but not everyone likes how they implement it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so well, Phoenix is working on it.
Cool.
Yeah, but it's like one of those things where technically everything you could do in custodially, you could also do self-custodially, but not everyone is going to like how you do it.
Yeah. But other innovations like NFC cards, for
Oh,
example,
yes,
the boldcard.org project, which is also a fantastic open source project that makes it really easy. There's a project in Bitcoin Beach, Brazil, prior Bitcoin, where they are actually having a program called Fruits for Sats and giving out bold cards to 5-year-old, 6-year-old school kids and making them just tap the point of sale with a loaded bold card, and it uses NFC technology. Just like it works just the same way like the tap and pay that we're used from traditional credit cards. And
Joe's ring too.
sorry?
Joe's
Joe's
ring.
ring.
Yes, the bolt ring is amazing. Yeah, as well. Works just like just the same way. Works with LN URL withdraw and NFC 452 NTAC cards that are very cheap to buy, and yeah, just need more point of sales that can actually work with them. I think like there's already a plenty BTC Pay server on Android devices works with them for some time already. Blink has them, Wallet of Satoshi has them, Breeze has them, and I'm probably forgetting a couple others, but yeah, this is like the user experience, the frictionless payment experience that you probably refer to when you say it's the best payment technology, because in order to be that, it needs to beat the status quo, at least be on par with it. But it's better than that because you don't have to wait like 90 days to get your money from Visa after you tap and pay. You have it instantly and can spend it to pay your supplier. So the velocity of money increases because, yeah, it's a bearer asset and there's no chargebacks, and
Unless you're using hodl invoices, but
unless you have
Yeah,
hodl
but you shouldn't
invoices.
hodl that long. Then you piss off Mutiny.
oh yeah, and they close your channels.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
yeah, go ahead.
privacy. While we still have some time, right? Should I kick privacy off or?
Let me make one more point on the the adoption thing, and not to quote Femi too many times, but he said, how do we get this out to everybody? Yes, orange pilling the communities is great, but then how do we get to the large organizations? And that's something that I've been tasked with, and you will be surprised to hear that the tech is undeniable when you show it to them. And these people, their eyes will light up in a boardroom and they'll go, wow, that was pretty wild. And we like to bring use cases to industry. So I was talking to the reinsurance industry. I was in like Lloyd's of London, a couple months ago, and I was like, we'll show you how this might work, but you got to take it to your InsurTech platform. Instead of T minus 180 days, you can do this T minus 1 day. And the guys, their eyes light up. But then they're like, but how do we do this without saying Bitcoin? and so that seems to be like always the hurdle. But then you actually have companies now, and with stable sats, and we've got something called stable accounts. We are seeing companies building innovative solutions using Bitcoin, but not mentioning Bitcoin, which might be against the Bitcoin ethos, but it's happening. And one of the companies that we're working with in Mexico is using Lightning addresses, LN URL. But they're tying the Lightning address to a number. So it's almost like the reversal of USSD, if you will. It's like they're just making the database entry tied to the number to a Lightning address. So a new user signs up for a mobile app, they have their number, and then I want to send money to this number, and it's just a fiat to fiat transaction, but it's using the Lightning address in the back end. They know the technology is better. They're using the technology, but they don't want to admit it yet. So it's getting there, and I just think it's important to note that you do have corporations that are looking at it. They just can't internally accept it yet. So we will get there. Anyway.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, the legitimization problem that is being felt at many ends of the Bitcoin ecosystem, but it's improving constantly over time. We've come a long way. There's a lot of road to walk still. What are you personally excited about in terms of future developments that you're looking forward to? Or like, let's make a final round. Start with Carol. Like, is there something that you're looking forward to, or think that would be a nice nut to crack to get us across the chasm? Or
Yeah, breach the chasm. Yeah, no, definitely community custody. Custody is not a self-solution if you believe in self-sovereignty, which I do, in self-custody. So either we're going to end up with big centralized services that provide your Lightning wallet for you, or we need to find a different solution, and not everybody can afford individual self-custody. So we have to look at community-based.
okay.
Yeah,
What about you, Rai?
I'm excited to find more KGs and Carls around the world that want to build on Lightning and do cool stuff with it, because I'm not going to have the ideas. And yeah, that's what gets me excited, is finding the kid that's like, I've got this idea, I want to take down M-Pesa. You're like, cool, dude, how can I help? You know, it's like, and that's what makes me happy.
Cool.
Awesome.
Oh yeah, cool. So for me, it's like two things, right? One, what Phoenix Wallet is doing, well, and Moon Wallet as well. I feel like they are the most complementary wallets in the space because they do it so differently. You can implement almost something as seamless as Wallet of Satoshi or Machankura. We're using them as a stencil by just knowing how to present stuff, right? People don't mind paying for stuff. There's paid apps on the App Store. Make your Lightning Wallet a paid app, and whenever a person downloads it, they have all the liquidity they need because they paid for it. Cool, and there's nothing wrong with that. The second thing is basically Lightning in its nature emulates how economy or local economies work, right? And that is the reason why Lightning channels are so great. A person who shops at Pick and Pay all the time can have a Lightning channel directly to Crypto Converts node, and they will always be able to make a transaction and pay a zero fee without needing to route it to the rest of the network. Right? Yeah, if Pick and Pay or if Crypto Convert has to move out those funds, they can move those funds out through the user that paid them as well, without having to send that user payment through routing or rebalancing or however you choose to look at it. So yeah, I hope to see more local economies actually doing interesting stuff with Lightning and Lightning channels.
All right.
What about yourself? Huh?
Yeah,
Yeah, it says time's up.
We'll have a chance to.
You the final word.
Well, I'm following like the discussions, the technical discussions a little bit. Obviously, a lot of Bitcoiners have a headache about what's going on and like the disillusionment and yeah, how do we get to that point where Bitcoin users can use Bitcoin actually sovereignly and it scales to 8 billion people without us having to go mega blocks like, I don't know, some scammers claim it works. There are some interesting proposals, but they're going to take time to implement, to get there. We need soft forks for them. We have to agree which ones, right? Which one is the best. And then we have to make sure that actually, like, there's not some things we haven't thought about while trying to, that will be enabled while trying to get to a certain place in a rush, right? So it also needs some time, and things shouldn't be rushed on that end. Which is frustrating for some folks that are working on this, obviously. I think we're already at a good place and we can already like win a lot of room, especially in the race against central bank digital currencies, which almost every country and government in the world is planning to roll out. So they're not there yet. In some countries, they've started, and the people said no, like Nigeria, so that's really great to see. Other governments have given up, like I think Denmark said, no, this is no good, we're not following this. But others are like going full head on into this, and I think there's like a window of opportunity to actually like outpace them and outrace them with the tech that we already have. Obviously not fit for super adversarial environments, but those are also not real. Like we have Bitcoin-friendly jurisdictions, like El Salvador, for example, but there's others as well. People are looking into it, people are paying attention. And like Dubai also, Singapore, I don't know, I'm not super, Switzerland. Like there's always like these places you can play this jurisdictional arbitrage and win some ground. And yeah, make a fait accompli, I would say. Like, and I'm excited also about the prospects of Lightning for e-commerce. Like there's a whole culture of digital, of influencers living from affiliate links, talking about other people's products on the internet in many different languages. We see that in the United States, we see that in the United Kingdom, in first world countries, all of which have bank accounts. They have PayPal and credit cards, so they can get paid for their affiliate services. I don't see that too much in the global south or in low-income countries where the financial infrastructure is not there. And this industry, this digital economy is going to go there as well. Like, it's more authentic, it's, people can work from where they are and they can service huge markets if they do a good job, and Lightning enables them to participate in this digital economy. So I'm very excited about that prospect of Lightning for e-commerce with the tech that we already have. And yeah, that's my view, I guess. Thanks for the nice chat, gentlemen. Cool. Thanks for the work that you're doing. Round of applause for these great builders here.
Thank you.
And
good job, guys. Thanks.
That was awesome. The first panel conducted on some soapboxes. Amazing. Really well done, gentlemen. Please give it up for them
Great.
one more time.
Great.
Building those solutions we're all going to use. Well done, guys. Well done. Well done, Carol. Yeah, just 4 blokes sitting on some soda cans talking about the future of finance. And also 4 blokes from 3.5 continents, which is kind of cool. Because Turkey's like 2 continents, right? Europe and Asia, yeah. So, okay, we'll go with 5 continents. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here today. I hope you've had a fantastic time. This is, unfortunately, the end of day 1. But if you come back here tomorrow at 8 o'clock, there'll be refreshments, coffee. So if you drink too much, there's coffee on tap here. Don't worry about it, because I know that some of you definitely will drink too much, won't you? I'm looking at you, Paco. He's already drunk. Great. Thank you so much, everyone. A round of applause for you guys for being ace, for planning and building the future of money. Thank you so much, you guys. Have a fantastic evening. I can't wait to see you all tomorrow for more of the same. It's going to be fantastic. Have a great evening, guys. Bye-bye.